Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tech Talks with Shrey the Crane. Today, I have another very special guest, Jonah Andersson, who is another Microsoft MVP, an amazing educator and mentor, and a software consultant. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to kind of talk to you a little bit about your experiences, not just with serverless, but specifically with the serverless community and with educating different engineers out there.
Yes, my name is Jonah Andersson. I'm a software developer from Sweden. So I work at Forefront Consulting as a software developer consultant as my day job. So every day I code C Sharp, .NET, and also work with Azure technologies. And on the side, outside work, I am the founder and organizer of Azure User Group Sweden, and I'm also a public speaker, and I'm also writing a book. And I also do mentoring on the side to volunteer and make a difference that way when
I
I
mean,
have
what
time.
don't you do? You're literally doing everything. I can't even think of anything else. Your story is really interesting because you're like you said, you're an author, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're doing everything. How did you get to this place?
Yes, thank you for that questions. To the short version is that I got where I am right now because of the resilience and the hard work I had in my life. But historically, I became a software engineer because actually it all started back in the Philippines. So I studied computer science in the Philippines, and then when I moved to Sweden 10 years ago, I studied more .NET development and Java development until I became a software developer. So now I've been a developer for 7 years, more or less 7 years, coding and stuff. But originally, to get started, originally I really wanted to be. My first dream job was to be a civil engineer back then in the Philippines because I wanted to be different back then. And since my parents couldn't afford to send me to college back in the Philippines because education was not free there, I decided to take a scholarship in my school. And that made me to study computer science, and since then I didn't regret studying and taking that stepping stone because that made me more interested in tech where I am today. So I'm not building houses or buildings, but I'm building software for everyone around the
And
world.
you're building communities.
Yes, there, yeah, that
Yeah.
too.
Different type of community, but it's definitely just as important. So, what has this experience been like specifically with mentoring, consulting, like teaching, training, all these different things that you do? Like in my head, they all sound similar, but obviously they all require very different skill sets, and the type of people that you're working with are very different.
Yes, first about working as a software developer. So when you work as a software developer, so it is expected that in your job you do some coding and some software development in specific language or major language that the client or your employer expects you to do. But at the same time, also as a consultant. So you can work as a consultant for a consulting company where the IT consulting company has a client that you work for and you work there. And there's also a type of developer job where you work directly for the company and you work directly in this product. There are the systems of their products. So those are the difference in the consulting job. And one of the things that I find as a software engineer or developer, you learn a lot of things within your job, but as a consultant as well, you learn to work in different projects. So you don't stay in one project. So that's what makes you like you continually learn every time you work in projects. So those are the things for consulting and software development. And as for mentoring, it is a different skill set. It's so as you notice, I do We met we met through the serverless Beat project serverless camp, and there you led the initiative as well with Bit project, and I was one of the mentors. So I mentor both the technical and non-technical. So technical, it's about like mentoring about serverless Azure functions that I'm passionate about. And at the same time, I also like to share my tech story and inspiration to others, the non-technical aspect of it, because that actually helps. I mean, those two things align with each other, and they're both equally important, I think.
Yeah. So
Yes.
why serverless specifically though?
Um, Serverless is just one example of building community, but serverless is also a great community category to start with. It's because serverless is easy for to get started as a new developer. As we were in the Bit project, we got a really great collaboration with all the attendees in that camp, where for example, Beatrice, who was my mentee. She never coded serverless before, but she thought it was very interesting to learn a new programming language through the serverless bootcamp. So serverless community is a good way to reach out to diverse audience and diverse community as well all over the world, regardless of
Definitely.
age. Yes.
Yeah, I've personally like firsthand seen the impact of your mentorship on a lot of other students, including myself. And it's so important. There's only so much you can learn at a in like a school environment, right, with professors, because they're used to teaching content, right? But it's very difficult to get an understanding of what the tech industry is like and how to succeed in it unless you're in contact with other developers. So it's really awesome that people like you are out here making an effort to make connections with students and help them, transition into the industry and into their first careers really easily. What would you say is the value of being part of that type of a community, not just as a mentor, but also for the students? What types of experiences are they getting out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question and reflections also, because um, when as a mentor, or not that just as a mentor, but being part of the serverless community, for example, the Bit project serverless camp that we had, where we got connected,
Yeah.
I find that inspiration in a way that I could share my knowledge to others, technically, but at the same time, I get to know the students in the serverless camp and learn their stories. And I think that's made a difference, because once you made a difference in someone's life, or to a person, then it kind of like make that small impact. Like it's like planting a seed.
Yeah.
I have this, like, I'm a gardener, so it's like planting a seed to someone, and then it's gonna grow. Like for example, Beatrice, she was really inspired about our mentorship, that she herself is mentoring others as well and inspiring others. So it's really inspiring. So I think all of us should be open to sharing knowledge all the time,
Yeah.
regardless of whatever community it is, serverless, Azure, or for we're here to help each other and learn.
Yes. And I'll add more details on how you can get involved in serverless communities. There's a lot out there, not just serverless, other technologies as
Yes.
well. But we'll add more information about that in the comments below. But could you tell us a little bit about your experience with just being a Microsoft MVP? What does it take to get to that point? Or even like, what were your motivations? What thoughts drove you to taking that as a responsibility? And then, like, what did you have to do to get here?
Yes. Yes. What does it take to be an MVP? So yeah, great question. Actually, to be honest, I didn't expect to be receiving the award of Microsoft MVP from the beginning, but before I received the award, I was active in sharing knowledge in the community. because of my passion for Azure technologies, for example. And what it takes to be an MVP, it's an award, but it's more than just an award. I mean, as you see, I have this MVP award plaque that I received, but the the being recognized as someone who's helping out the community through knowledge and through my passion and collaboration with others, that's more than just an award, and it helps me in a way that I can inspire more to more knowledge and inspiration to others. And it all started actually when I was teaching programming to kids years ago, and I saw in that classes that I had that there were lacking. There was there was something missing, and that's like having girls or women, younger women, being interested in tech. And I from that day, it's kind of like a breaking point that I wanted to make a difference by sharing the best I can and be a role model to others, to younger generation, and even to whoever it is that could be inspired of my story. But becoming an MVP has made it better in a way that I have the support from Microsoft in so many ways. And I gain a lot of friends in the community as well who are like-minded and very inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, like, I definitely, that point that you highlighted about like women in tech and making sure that they have someone to look up to is so important. For me, when I was in college, I was only able to make it through because I had a lot of other female engineers around me who were really smart and willing to provide support when I needed it, when I was struggling in my classes. So definitely really important. I don't think I would have made it through without them. So you can definitely tell the impact that mentors like you have on other people and their journeys in tech. What are your responsibilities now that you are an MVP?
Yes, as an MVP, I just actually continue what I've been doing before as an MVP, and it's not really a responsibility. It's more like continuing my passion, and Microsoft MVP award is just like a recognition for it. So I currently contribute to the community by organizing events, tech events bi-weekly in my user group, Azure User Group Sweden. And sometimes if I have opportunity to inspire others through talks like this and interviews like this, I do that. And sometimes I share my hands-on experience. For example, I'm learning about an Azure technology, or for example, serverless, and I have something to share. Then I blog about it. So it can be all about sharing knowledge and sharing everything to the community, or it might be collaborating with other MVPs who might need help. So it's like having a family in the tech.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, that's what you just said is a great segue into my next question, which is I heard you're writing a
Yes.
book. That is so cool. I mean, you've been educating people and sharing knowledge in so many different platforms, like you said, talks, workshops, blogs, documentation, all sorts of things. Now, the book is like the next level, right? Could you just tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm writing a book that started like months ago,
Hmm.
last year, and it's a book about Azure. So the title of my book is Learning Microsoft Azure, and the reason why I started the idea of writing a book, it's because of actually because of first I had, as a developer, I had a cloud migration story in which that migration project of an old application or legacy application was supposed to be moved to the cloud, but that went fiasco, or it failed because of the lack of cloud knowledge of the organization or business. So I wanted to make a difference by sharing all the knowledge that I know through the book not just for the beginners of Azure, but also to intermediate readers like developers that are still starting, and even to IT professionals or business that wants to understand how does it really work with cloud computing. Because as you are aware, maybe you've heard or read as well, that many people are kind of like not so sure about moving to the cloud because they're not so sure where is my data
Yeah.
gonna be if I put it in the cloud. You know, the shared responsibility model in the cloud computing is also important. So my book is gonna tackle from the basics of cloud computing, basics of Azure, and the rest of the good services in Azure that will be useful for cloud development or transformation.
That's awesome. And what are your motivations? Like, what are you hoping that your readers will get out of this experience?
I hope that it will help them with their own cloud migration or cloud journey, not just in moving to the cloud, but also their cloud career when they're getting started with their careers. So it's really a book that I want to be open and inclusive for everybody, regardless if you're a beginner or just getting started or have experience but you need a recap. So that's my purpose. It's not a too advanced, too expert book. It's for everyone. That's why it's in that level.
Yeah, we were actually talking a little bit about this in our pre-interview, but you mentioned like one of the things that you really value, especially in just delivering any type of content, is making sure that it is inclusive and that anyone at any level is able to dive into it and really gain the most out of that experience.
Yes.
What what does inclusiveness specifically for this book mean to you?
For me, it's being, as I mentioned, it's being inclusive to those, for example, those that are the women in tech or students that are curious about cloud development or anybody actually. So in the world of software development, there's sometimes, I mean, in my experience, this is my personal opinion, there's a separation between you're a tech person and the non-tech person because you're in the business side. In my daily job, I my job is to deliver by coding and creating features in the system, but it also requires me as a developer to truly understand the business side, the non-technical side of it. And I was thinking about, in relevance to my book, I want my book to kind of like combine it. I want it to be inclusive in a way that it kind of merge the non-technical and technical aspect of it, that you kind of gain the understanding to get started. Because as you notice, Azure, they can be too many choices. You've worked with Azure. There's a lot of choices. Like if you want to build an app, which way do you want to go? Do you want to create Azure static web apps? Do you want to go serverless? So there are a lot of options. So the inclusiveness part of that my book is all about trying to know all of those paths and choosing the right path for the right problem to solve.
Definitely. And I'm sure writing something that's such a long form piece of content must have its own challenges, right? And I'm sure that there's
Yes.
like a lot of other people out there in tech. Obviously, most people tend to rely on blogs and documentation, which is a great place to get started. But if there are other mentors or people in the serverless community that want to themselves start writing about like writing books because they have so much experience, right? Do you have any advice on the types of struggles that you faced and what you've learned out of that experience?
Yes, yeah, I do. I do have some experience already. It's too early to tell the big part of it, but I've experienced that it actually requires a lot of time to write a book. It requires like spare time on your weekends and time to write it and then edit it and then make sure you draw the illustrations and make sure that when you write the book you're really focusing on your audience or your reader and not by yourself, that you're making it inclusive. So that means that when you're writing, you cannot make it too technical and not too easy either, that it excludes others that already know the topic. So yeah, so it requires some preparedness, and also keeping the motivation, because it's a long process. For example, this book project that I have, it's like about a year project for with several chapters. So it's good to keeping that motivation and the purpose why you're writing the book that you want to write. And of course, there's a quote from one of my favorite book of Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. If you set a goal, uh, begin with the end in mind. That's the quote, and I really like that as well. So I'm even though it takes time, I'm still motivated to finish up to the finish line, because I know that my purpose is to motivate and help others.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What are the plans? When can we
Yes.
start reading it?
Actually, it's the first two chapters are already in early release, but it's planned to
Hmm.
publish to be published on June next year, 2023.
Nice.
So that would be published in papers, Amazon, and all the publishing like platforms everywhere. So hopefully, I'll make it to the finish line.
Oh, you will.
So, and I look,
I
yeah.
started reading the early release. It is fantastic. I love how you start from like the basics and you kind of build your way towards more complicated topics. If anyone is interested in checking out Jonah's book, I'm going to link it in the comments below. It is an early release, so like
Yes.
Jonah said, there's a couple of chapters there, but you can check it out, learn from it, and if you have any feedback, you can let her know as well before the actual publishing date comes out. I'm
Yes.
excited. um,
Yes, I'm gonna send you a copy with my signature on
I'm
it.
so excited. Oh, I feel special now.
Yes.
Um, so
I'm not yet a published author, but I already
you are
promised
in
you
my
that. We
heart.
have this
You are.
recording.
um, we talked a little bit about all these different types of like content pieces that we can use to share knowledge with the serverless community. But obviously, community is more than just reading and watching videos and learning. It's also about communicating and being able to have some sort of like a more one-on-one experience with other developers. Um, Could you tell me how you've placed yourself in the community, maybe specifically even like during the pandemic? Because I feel like that's been the hardest part, to make sure that the
Yes.
community has a way to communicate with each other.
Yes, that's a good question or insight. Yes, so as I mentioned, I started a community or founded a community on Meetup. It's the group Azure User Group Sweden, and the idea all started when during the pandemic, like last year when it all got started. I've been working from home, and I like learning about Azure and connecting with the communities. And I thought I saw that in my area in Sweden generally, there's not much remote meetup groups where people can meet online and learn together and connect. So I decided to start Azure User Group Sweden by myself. So at first I started my recorded sessions by myself, and then later on, after a few months, I got connected with another MVP that was willing to collaborate and be my co-leader. So now from zero members, now we're about 300 plus member in the community, and we're doing our sessions every 2 weeks on Saturdays when we're off work, and we invite other MVPs and experts from around the world. So I really like that I the community grow from zero to that big one, and it's not just about sharing knowledge in the group, but it's like MVPs collaborating with each other, and members are like learning and they get inspired taking certifications and switching roles because they think that's the right path. So it's great.
That's insane. Okay, I've tried to start a meetup. I'm doing it for my work right now. And I can tell you for the first month before that meetup first launched, Anytime someone asked me how I was feeling or what was going on, my response was immediately, I have no idea what I'm doing. There's no like document that tells you how to start a meetup, and if there is, it's very specific to the
No.
types of events people have done in the past. So it's a lot of just like trying
Yes.
a bunch of stuff and hoping things work out and hoping that you're making a good experience for developers. But you don't
Yes.
know until you have that first event.
Try.
Exactly.
Yes.
You started this alone. I'm
Yes.
doing this as part of my company. How did you do this alone, and how have you been building the
That's a
community?
good.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's it's a good, sorry, yeah, yes, that's a good question. I started it alone, and just like you as well, I had the doubts. How can I do this? Because I never thought of myself as a leader. Because as I mentioned, you knew my story, tech story, that when I was a child, I'm very shy, and that's my public speaking story as well. At that when I was young, I'm very scared talking like this in public. But I learned from it. But some someone told me that if you really want to do something that you're really passionate about, sometimes you just do it. Like regardless if it's impossible or not. Like you kind of feel it. Like if you do it, regardless of the outcome, you just do it and try. And that's what I did. And I'm glad that I did. I did. I was courageous to do that. So I'm very happy because I'm learning in the community. So yeah,
I love it.
so I really love it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
especially because it is a virtual meetup at this point, even if I'm not in Sweden, I like watching the videos. So it's great. What were some
Yes.
of the milestones? If I go on your meetup right now, it says you have around 319 members. That's crazy. How did you reach that?
Yes. And we, yeah, the milestones is first is like in November, after several months, we became part of Azure tech groups in Sweden. So I was very happy to see part of the map in the Azure tech groups. They have a map for all the communities around the world, and they have marked Sweden in my area, Azure User Group Sweden, and it made me humble and proud as well that we made it that way as well. So it's really great. And what I like the most is the collaboration between MVPs. So my co-host Håkan is also an MVP. He is not in Sweden, he is in Norway, but we get to organize the event together to keep it up. And our members are also like very loyal and sharing pictures about the events and things. So
Could you tell us a little bit more about the types of speakers that you want on in your meetup or that you've had in the past?
yes, for so Azure User Group Sweden has a call for speakers and sessionize. So we usually share it on our like biweekly meetup, but we are open to welcome all types of speakers, MVPs, experts, or even the new speakers that never spoken in a public meetup before. So we are open for that, and that's part of being inclusive and diverse in the community as well. You can be a member of the community, learning from the other speakers, but at the same time, you can raise your hand and, hey, Jonah, I want to be your speaker. I'm good at this. Then you're welcome, and we provide coaching to those who are willing to speak for the first time. So that would be like that's part of being inclusive in the community, I
Yeah,
think.
that's definitely very important. What are your future plans and what have you learned so far? Or actually, opposite order, what have you learned so far and what are your future plans?
Yes. You mean learn so far in general, like in the community stuff
Anything
and
like in the
everything
meetup in
as a person?
general?
Yes. I learned so far. I mean, if I were to compare how I was years ago and now, what I learned is that uh, to to be resilient and be brave in doing what you want. Because one example of this is public speaking. As I mentioned a lot, I'm very shy of being in the public, but now I conquered that. And also taking courage to just build the community that you want. As long as it feels right, just do it. And if, for example, if you want to be a developer and you don't know where to go, just follow your heart and get some guidance through mentorship or mentors around us. And also community. Is very important. It helps us grow, especially in the times of pandemic right now and what's going on with the world. So I'm glad we haven't met in person, but I feel like I'm connected to you as a family in the community as
Yeah,
well.
honestly, I've learned so much from you. And I can't believe we haven't met in person. Like, it feels like we've known each other for like 10
Yes.
years. Um, but
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
so cool.
But that's one of my lessons actually. So I met a lot of people in the community, even though I haven't met them in person. So somehow that's one of the positive side of COVID in a way that we get to connect more remotely, not virtually. So that's also good. So I hope to meet in person, you in person as well. So if you're in Europe or Sweden, let me know, or
I'm
vice
down.
versa.
Let's go. I'm going there tomorrow. I wish.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess the CTA
Yes.
here is literally join a community, join a meetup. It doesn't have to be virtual. If you have the ability to go in person, go for it. But there's so many amazing virtual communities out there that have been built just within the last year. And they've been built by developers like me, like Jonah, some with less experience, some with lots of experience, but everyone that just has the goal in mind of, making friends that have similar interests and places where you can talk about them, and that you can learn from each other. So, yeah, you should join a community. What is the future of the serverless community, Jonah?
Um, the future of serverless community, I think it's just like other communities. I think it's going to expand more and develop more. As you can, you're an advocate for that, and we are advocates of that. So it's a technology that will continue, especially in the modernization in cloud that we have. And we also know some friends in the community like Mark Tucker and Bit Project and all the great people in the community that are continually sharing about it. So hopefully we inspire the young ones, the younger generation through sharing.
Yes, I love that. Um, so next week we're going to have another conversation and continue the conversation around serverless, and dive deeper into the process of actually building serverless projects. But I just wanted to say massive thank you so much, Jonah, for joining me here today. I've learned so much from you, not just today, but just in the last year. And I really hope that this video, this conversation that we just had, helps people drive towards being part of the serverless community or any tech community that they're interested in. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for having me here today, Shreya. It's really nice to spend time with you doing this community events as well. So, yeah, looking forward for a real
Yeah.
interview someday
Let's do it.
in person.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonah. Bye.
Maybe see you in a public speaking event someday as well.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Awesome.